Greetings to you, our audience. You are very welcome to this session. Thank you for joining in. My name is Dr. Julia Chikozi. I work with Makerere University, Department of Agriculture and Biosystems Engineering, and I'll be leading this session, the first of three parts. This session, University Student Engagement with Agro-processing MSMEs, Implications for Higher Education Training, is based on work from my Makerere University Research and Innovations Fund project titled Empowerment of the Agro-processing Industry to meet the quality and quantity standards for local and export market, a program enhancing the practical skills of students in Makerere University. It is a multi-year project, 1 year already completed, and looking to start second year. Therefore, any ideas and recommendations from this session will inform the next phase of the project. I'll start by introducing the project team members. The project team is of myself as the lead, and I work with Professor Mukisa, Professor Muyanja from Makerere University, Miss Letitia Nambiru from Uganda National Bureau of Standards, Brenda Katarika from Uganda Export Promotion Board, and our dear administrators, Mr. Emmanuel Baide and Dr. Stella Maris Sendaji. I will be presenting this session with Dr. Stella and Mr. Emmanuel. We are very excited to share work at this USAID Global Summit. Before I share more details about the project, we would like to know a bit about you all in our audience. Kindly take a few minutes to answer some questions. The first will be in this poll, and then we'll have two others. So kindly attend to the poll so we can know who we have, which industries we are working with. Thank you. Which industry do you work with? Is it higher education? Is it the food industry? Is it finance and insurance? Is it research? Do you work for an NGO? Is it a government body? Is it a development agency or any other? Please indicate. Thank you. Interesting. So majority are from higher education and development agencies. Thank you very much. Thank you, Anita, for those results. We're looking forward to having some good discussions. We can now go to the questions. If you could kindly type out your answers in the chat. If you would like to comment, you could also put on your video and you give a comment, or you could just post it in the chat. First question there is, what do you hope to learn and contribute to this session? The second question there is, how do you expect to use the information from this session? Could just take half a minute to respond, or a minute. Thank you, Jill. Jill wants to inform program designs tailored to youth working in the agribusiness area. Thank you. Great. Okay, particularly for you say. Okay, wonderful. Okay, thank you very much. And we could pick the rest as we go along. And we know that you'll be able to pick something from this presentation too. Okay, I will now go on and provide a background to the discussions that we're going to have. This project idea was conceived to address two challenges. The first one, the lack of relevant practical skills that results in wide criticism of university graduates for their poor performance in the marketplace. The second one, there's a lack of holistic approach in the training and mentorship of agro-processing micro, small, and medium enterprises to meet national food standards. So our project was looking at meeting those two challenges. To address these challenges, the following formed the project's activities. The first, to establish a hub that brings together the stakeholders in the agro-processing industry so that they can inform each other. To train processors on how to develop processes ensuring standards leading to certification. To train processors on how to develop processes to meet market demands. To optimize product quality and food process chain for 40 agro-processing MSMEs. To develop plans for quality control, waste management, plant design and upscale, as well as marketing for these agro-processing MSCs. Training of all staff at each of the facilities in hygienic processing practices for safety of food products. On the other hand, we wanted to also ensure we enhance student skills in critical thinking, problem solving, leadership, business, teamwork, creativity, and communication. We also thought of establishing a mini processing plant where we could do experimental work, train our agro-processors, market equipment, and test food processing equipment. Next. The project used a modified triple helix model, the agro-processing pro model, that comprises an academia, industry, and government partnership, integrated with a 4-arm strategy to ensure effectiveness of the model. In this project, Makerere University, academia, worked with 2 government institutions, Uganda National Bureau of Standards and Uganda Export Promotion Board, to empower the agro-processing sector, who are the industry in this case. The 4-arm strategy included, next slide. The 4-arm strategy included, next slide. Training in knowledge of agro-processors and students. Step 2, gaps identification, unique to each industry. Then interventions were developed, implemented for each industry. The last step, monitoring and evaluation. Training. Training on basics of agro-processing industry included a number of modules, operations in agro-processing industry, product optimization, application of GMP and hygienic processing, quality control and waste management, infrastructure development to meet quality and capacity, and development of marketing strategies. After training, we carried out a needs assessment to identify the gaps in each facility. The gaps were according to whether they possessed and used UNBS standards, the product quality, the status of their processing facilities, their hygienic processing protocols, documentation of operations in the processing facilities, quality assurance and quality control procedures, the equipment needs, certification, and marketing strategies they undertook. That gaps identification informed the interventions that we developed. The interventions were according to the following activities: establishment of hygienic infrastructure, product analysis and optimization for the products they had in the facility. We then went ahead and established hygienic processing protocols. We supported the processors with acquisition of standards and how they could be used. We supported them in acquisition of equipment. We helped them develop a tool which could help them predict and assess their production capacities versus cost. We did some product level development for them. We supported them in the process of certification. We also supported them in marketing skills. We developed some business plans and marketing plans. In the process, we also trained our undergraduate students, since they comprised part of the team that was going into the industry and developing these activities. The intervention plans were implemented by both the project team and the university students, allowing the students to apply knowledge gained from the classroom, as well as develop hands-on skills. So with all that, with all those interventions, our project had quite a good impact. It contributed to growth in the development of Uganda's agro-processing industry as desired in Vision 2040. We increased the ability of 40 MSMEs to meet quality standards and capacity for the local and international markets. We increased growth in Uganda's human resource capacity for the agro-processing industry. We contributed to ensuring safer food products on the Ugandan market. We contributed to increased job opportunities for both the students and in the processing facilities. That gives us a good background to our project, what we're able to do, what we achieved. And Dr. Stella will come and give even more explicitly the effect or the impact that the project had on the agro-processors. But before she comes, kindly post out in the chat what stood out for you in this presentation, what interested you, and why. What stood out for you in the background I've provided? What interested you and why? Kindly post your answer in the chat. You could just take half a minute to do that. And then we shall have Dr. Stella come. Oh, thank you, Jill. Our students were engaged at every step of the activity. Wonderful. That was very important because, as you're going to see later, it really made a great difference in their lives. Thank you very much. We could pick up the rest of the comments as we go along. We'll be able to pick them up. I'll invite Dr. Stella now to continue with the next session. Thank you.
Dr. Stella, you're on mute.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Julia, for that very good introduction and engagement with our audience. And thank you very much, Anita, for producing our session. My name is Dr. Stella Marie Sendaji, and I'm very happy to participate in this Pioneer USAID Higher Education Global Evidence Summit. As mentioned by Dr. Julia, this session is about work from a project funded by the government of Uganda through Makerere University Research Innovations Fund. I mainly develop and design the project activities and operations specific to the micro, small, and medium agro-processors. Other beneficiaries of our work are Makerere University undergraduate students. In this second part of our session, I share the experiences of the agro-processors with emphasis on their needs, the needs that the project was able to address, and the challenges that the agro-processors still face. After me, my colleague, Mr. Emmanuel Baide, will present the last part of our session, which will focus on student experiences on the project. Next. In the past few years, the agro-processing industry in Uganda has grown, contributing 60% of total manufacturing in the country, while the micro, small, and medium agro-processing enterprises receive some support from government, private sector, and in a few cases from non-government organizations. The support is usually fragmented, resulting in the processors to continually not meet national product and operational standards. This is the industry gap that the project addresses. Between 2020 and 2021, we worked with 40 agro-processors in central Uganda, in the districts of Kampala, Luwero, Mityana, Pigi, and Mukono. The enterprises mainly processed spices, juices, dried fruits, wines. Some processors had jams, honey, yogurt, among many other products that the processors processed. While the processors have been in operation, some of them for years, the project identified several needs which were unique to each of the processors. Overall, the project categorically identified the following needs that the processors experienced. These needs are not listed in any order of priority. We have possession and use of UNBS standards, product quality, including product testing and optimization, status of processing facilities. Some of the facilities really needed renovations. There are issues of hygienic processing protocols, documentation of operations in the processing facilities, things like standard operating procedures, operational manuals. We had issues of quality assurance, quality control procedures that the processors needed to work on. Equipment needs, for example, refractometers, weighing scales, thermometers, and refrigerators. UNBS certification, majority of the processors did not have the certification of the Uganda National Bureau of Standards for several reasons. One of them being their inability to afford the certification fees. Then we had issues of marketing strategies that most of the processors did not have, and then an issue of training some of the employees. A simple needs assessment for 30 processors indicated that the needs which mainly topped the processors list included UNBS product certification, that was at 100%, possession and use of UNBS standards. Some processors didn't even know what standards they actually needed. We had an issue of product testing and optimization. This really the processors enjoyed to have on the project. Training of employees, as well as adequate standard facility design and layout. And our project mostly succeeded in assisting processors with the acquisition of standards, product testing and optimization, training of workers, and acquisition of small equipment such as weighing scales, thermometers, refrigerators, and refractometers. It is also important to note that majority of the processors did not have this basic agro-processing equipment due to lack of either knowledge or guidance on what kind of equipment they actually need to succeed and thrive in their enterprises. Thus, the processors were very happy with what our project did with the intervention of our project activities. We are now going to share some testimonies of 4 processors in a 2-minute video clip. The video is extracted from a longer video which can be accessed on the Summit's online platform. Here is the video clip.
I think everything has been unique in its own way. Take for instance, the first training itself was an eye-opener on how to do things. You realize that almost all agricultural entities, they have that cross-cutting element.
This was a great training because we went through all the requirements for certification. But it's not certification actually. We went through all the requirements. Investigating. After really investigating all of our processes, we found out that the table we were using to slice our pineapples had a challenge. We were using tiles, and we never knew that these tiles have some small cracks which brought sand in our juice. So because of the testing, we really understood that the table we are using was not suitable for food processing. And as I talk now, we are in the process of changing the top, but also now when we are processing, we have stainless.
It's going to help us in measuring the weight of, because we have to measure the kilograms of sugar. We have to measure the weight of the hibiscus. Those are the two, and also the weight of the yeast. So it is going to really help us so that we make the exact measurements to the production of the wine.
The big thing is the additions that they have made to our facility in terms of equipment. We appreciate ERP. Thank you so much for the support that you have given us. We shall not disappoint you, but again, we shall not disappoint.
Thank you very much, Anita, for that. Now, this is just 4 of the 40 processors that we worked with. The processors clearly highlight how the project empowered them with knowledge and skills in general. Facility infrastructure design, you had a gentleman there speak about the materials that they actually used in their facility was affecting the quality of the product. Other things that you have clearly seen is product testing and optimization, as well as acquisition of equipment. Among others, you have seen how they're using the scales to make sure that they have precision on their processes. However, even as the processors were empowered by the project and now know what to do, they still face challenges of inadequate facilities still and equipment, and also lack of certification. While these challenges are key to meet standards, they also require substantial capital input from the processors, majority of whom cannot actually afford the fees or money that they need to put in. Unfortunately, in phase 1, the project scope did not include renovation and establishment of processing facilities. Thus, the project wishes to address these challenges in its next phase. So I would like us right now to take a few minutes to brainstorm on how to help the processors to access or acquire standard or adequate processing facilities. For our brainstorming session, we may consider to think or ponder about questions like what solution models can be used to enable the micro, small, and medium agro-processing enterprises to sustainably access processing facilities, or examples of success stories of how similar challenges have been addressed elsewhere. For example, are there financial models that can be used to help the processors, or models where several processors can actually use one facility? I would also kindly request that as you share, you may please turn on your video. Thank you very much. So we can now start sharing on how we can help the processors improve their processing facilities or access facilities that are meeting standards of operation and manufacturing. Thank you very much. Please feel free to share. You can turn on your video, or if you're not comfortable turning on your video, maybe you can share in the chat. You can still see it there. Your contributions can still be seen in the chat, how we can help the agro-processors, be able to access standard facilities. Thank you. This also can link to these questions we posed earlier. How do you expect to use the information from this session, or what do you hope to learn from this session that we are currently having? Thank you. It may be something that maybe you have already experienced in your work, or from your collaborating partners, or within your networks, or something you've had that has worked elsewhere on how to help these micro and small enterprises to access standard or adequate facilities for operation, especially in the agro-processing industry. You can post your responses in the chat. You can also view it there. Any success stories, any solution models that we may have here to support our processors, and consider those in the next phase. Thank you. I see Dang here had turned on his video. I don't know if he wants to contribute. Yeah. Anita, is there anything in the chat? I can't see what is in the chat.
Not yet, but I feel like you can move on.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. All right. Maybe we can have some contributions on this later, but at this time we need to move on, and then we can have Mr. Baide going to come on. So I will now invite my colleague, Mr. Emmanuel Baide, to present the next part of our session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stella. Thank you so much, Dr. Chigozie, Julie, and the rest of the members at Makerere University, Professor Mukisa, Professor Mayanja, and our industrial partners, Letitia Namobiru and Brenda Katarikawe, as well as agro-processors and students that participated in this project. My name, Emmanuel Baide. I do everything finance for the project, and I also coordinate all student-related project activities. My experience in working with the students on this project is very rewarding, and I'm more than excited to share with you how the student engagement with the industry is critical to enhance learning and preparation for the job market. As earlier communicated, students formed part of the project team. Student participation was designed in such a way that it promotes innovation, critical thinking, and teamwork. The first year of the project implementation, 40 undergraduate students were enrolled into the project, and these were mainly third and fourth years at Makerere University specifically. These came from 3 degree programs: agriculture engineering, human nutrition, and food science and technology. And the choice of these programs was based on their contribution in the area of food processing. Next slide, please. Let's try to understand how the student participation really happened, because Jupiter Jones is interested in how the students were engaged at every step of the activity. One, we had an induction, and at this step, students were grouped in teams of 3 to 4. Students were trained on the code of practice. You realize that there is a huge difference between what happens at the university and what happens in the industry. So students were trained on how to actively and effectively participate in the activities while supporting the agro-processors. And this was done by Letitia Nambiru from the UNBS, one of our industrial partners. There was also student processor matching. So even before they went to the field, students knew which kind of processors they were supposed to work with and the kind of products they are building. We did a needs assessment. A needs assessment was done using different methods, through student processor interaction, through observations were in the field. We also gave them a questionnaire where they would ask processors to give some feedback on certain issues related to the industry. And at the end of this activity, each of the student groups was supposed to prepare a report of their findings. After the needs assessment, student teams were tasked to develop evidence-based and tailored interventions. And the thought process was guided by the project team. So students, in one way or the other, after identifying the needs, one of the needs was that most of these industries were not recording documentation of what activities they were doing, which is a pertinent issue in the food industry because it supports contact tracing. It wasn't something done. So students contributed to developing working templates for the different agro-processing facilities. And at the end of this, each student team developed a report for record purposes as well as for monitoring and evaluation. So during implementation and monitoring, the whole implementation was student-led because these were interventions developed by the students themselves. So they led the implementation, and the project team was doing an oversight role on the interventions that are being implemented. So the students trained the processors in the different standard operating procedures for the food industry. Away from what they were trained, now they were real training them physical, hands-on. If it is putting on food processing attire, they had to do it practically so people can learn from the horse's mouth. During implementation, a lot was realized that actually, even after developing the intervention plans, several things kept coming up during the implementation, and the students were highly encouraged to continue innovatively thinking for the different emerging challenges. The students were also required to prepare reports for records and monitoring and evaluation purposes. Next slide, please. So, talking about how students benefited, I may not be in position to explain enough. Let's have a short video of about 2 minutes to see what the students say about the ERP project.
My name is Nashito Rosemary, a third-year student pursuing a bachelor's degree in malnutrition. I'm a student research assistant for this project, and I've learned a lot, but mainly I've learned waste management, how to produce a product, and then there is waste, but you can still use that waste to make a better product.
Murungi Daniel Samuel, Food Science and Technology, third year. The project so far has been good. We've been able to learn very many things, especially the particular requirements that are required to produce products of high quality and how we can manage in industrial settings to make sure that small-scale producers are able to reach that capacity.
Jacqueline Navisere is my name. I graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Human Nutrition 2018. The project has enabled me to interact with different agro-processors, and it has enabled me to change my view of what I had of food safety and quality management, and I guess I would love to do a master's in it to help impact Uganda in a better way.
Dr. Daphne, doing Bachelor of Science in Food Science and Technology, and I'm a year 3. From the project, I've gained a lot of soft skills that add on to me as a person, and then apart from that, I'm excited to go to the field because I know I'm going to apply what I learned in class.
I'm Jared Bagonza. I graduate in agriculture engineering. This training has been of great use. We got to interact with agro-processors, we got to know what they really do, and we tried relating it what we studied in class. So with this training, I really see that we're going to do a lot in intervening with what they're really doing in their plants.
Thank you so much, Anita, for sharing that video. It's amazing when you listen to these stories and you realize that the project was not in vain. Many of these students actually benefited. From what they say, you realize there was something learned in value addition to waste, relating studies with the actual world, because sometimes the theories don't exactly match what is in the field. Soft skills, these days it's not about the degree, it's about what goes along with the degree. So I'm happy that many of the students have something to say about the project. Next slide, please. During project implementation, a lot of information was gathered and it was need to disseminate this information to the public. And one of the things we focused on was doing publications. Those are 5 publications that we did. One of them is that of the potential benefits of ERP agro-processing skills training course on the micro, small, and medium-scale agro-processors in Uganda. And when you read critically this paper, you realize that processors noted increasing their knowledge in the food processing, as well as the interaction between key industrial stakeholders, that is the academia, the marketing agent, the marketing body, that is UEPB, and the certification body. It was really an exciting opportunity for them to see the three interacting at a go through this project. There's that second one on the influence of field work on the preparedness of food technology and bioengineering students for the job market, a case study of the ERB student scaling enhancement program. And here you realize that field work stimulated students' interests in the field of food processing. There was mindset change, especially in terms of job creation. There is this third one on unearthing the potential of solid waste generated along the pineapple processing line in Uganda review. And this one focuses on the circular economy of agricultural waste. You realize agriculture is one of the biggest sources of waste. So we need to think about circular economy. Next slide, please. Now, there is evidence that these activities have actually improved the student employability skills. But in what way can such works be used or incorporated in the university curriculum? Please share your thought. This could be any models, any related models that you have used at your institutions, something related to connecting students to the industry and having their skills enhanced. Feel free to share in our chat or to share on a live video. We have about a minute to do that. Please feel free to share. It could be actually an addition to this. It could be an addition to what we are actually using currently, so we can actually best improve the methodology in the next phase. All feedback is highly welcome. Feel free to contribute. Anita, do you have anything coming through on the chat?
No, I don't.
Oh. Okay, thank you so much for the good listenership. Let me hope this answers Jupiter John's question on how students were engaged at every step of the activities. Over to you, Dr. Chigozi.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel and Stella, for those great presentations. Thank you for all that support, Anita. This has been very exciting for us to share with you. You can see we've been able to show you the great need in our agro-processing MSMEs. This is just a small group that we worked with, but there are many others out there. They just don't seem to really be aware of the standards that they should be working with for their products as well as their facilities. And of course, that's already a hindrance to the market that they want to get in. In the recent weeks, we are asked by GIZ, to do a training for processors, specifically in the leather industry. This was a group of about 30, but none of them possessed a standard. They were asking, what do the standards look like? But these are processors who are making leather products that they want to take into the market. In other words, there's such a great need still in our agro-processing MSs to help them to understand the need for quality, And this has got to be something I think that, we do at a larger scale and enable them, to have better products. On the other hand, we were looking at students. Like we mentioned earlier, our students are challenged with not having, really good practical skills. So this project demonstrated that you can actually be able to develop these skills. It was very interesting to have the students brainstorm, come up with interventions, and then eventually they are actually linking their thoughts to what they've studied in class. But just helping them have the process to engage with the projects, to engage with the reality on ground, they were able to come up with many ideas, and for them it's something that has really been valuable. So even to answer Jill, really one of the key things with these young people is to engage them to work on the problems, engage them, enlighten them, give them the knowledge, but cause them to think how they can solve problems. The more they do that, they're able to pick up the skills. They came up, for this project, some of them came up with such brilliant ideas. So it was really great working with them. The other thing that you could be thinking, how you could be able to know more, or if you have, probably what we've shared has tickled something in you and you can be able to share with us. You can use any of those emails, that number. You can still share with us because we keep thinking, how can we improve this? And this is a journey. You keep thinking, seeing what other people have done, getting feedback from different people, and you improve how you do things. So any feedback that you have for us would still be very welcome. At the end of the project, we were still asked to form the whole project idea into a service that people could access. And we're doing that through HEGES Agro-processing Solutions. The details are also on the screen. So HEGES is now able to offer this as a service to any of the processors who feel like they could pay for it. So again, thank you very much for joining in this presentation. We look forward to, engaging with you at any other point. Okay, bye-bye. Have a great day.